Well, champions. I'm just going handheld for this one because the Vox has taken up the other bench. And I've got no camera mount here, but anyway. So we've cleaned up this thing. I managed to find enough room in those valve socket pin holes in the PCB to fit some 3-watt 1500 ohm screen grid resistors. We've got a bit of 18 gauge bus wire going across there with a common rail back to the screen supply. At the moment, with the stuff going on in Russia, we want to preserve our valves as long as we can, because they're sort of the second last viable source. JJ's, so the Slovak Republic, just increased their pricing by about 50%. So they used to be the most reasonably priced, now they're the most expensive. China's shut down and everything else is from Russia, which has now got sanctions on it. So avoiding the political stuff, the harsh reality of it is we've got to try and make our valves last as long as possible. So the valves in it are fine. I've gone through and you could rewire every single, that's how bad the terminals are. So I've cleaned a few of them up, but we can't spend that amount of time on this amp. It's not in the budget to rewire every connection, and the wire is really low quality, so every time you heat it up the jackets melt, given the tiniest bit of heat. Just really thin and low quality wire. Well, the wire itself is thick, but the jacket's really thin. I don't think it says 600 volt, but I don't think it's 600 volt wire. All bets are off with China, eh? Anyway, we changed those horribly installed diodes. You can see them hiding down underneath there. I took those filter caps out temporarily to get to them. We just short and cleaned up the wiring a fair bit. I redid those terrible splices properly with some proper heat shrink on the output transformer, which appears to have been replaced really poorly at some point. You could see my previous Ranty McRant face video. The master volume pot, its middle pin fell off just upon removing the circuit board, so I replaced that pot. And yeah, we're pretty good. We're sitting at 50% idle dissipation. Repaired the reverb tank, which had broken wires, so that's good again. We got reverb back, and everything's pretty hunky-dory, but there's a bit of funkiness there. That's the test speaker down there. That's a fair bit of hiss, but it's fluctuating. So I'm guessing that's probably a valve, but we'll track that down, and that'll be the sort of last thing, and then we'll clean the cabinet up and put it back in. So the other thing I did was replace the standby switch because it was intermittent. It was arcing, popping, crackling, and either not turning on or not turning off. So the old one goes in the bin, mate. Oh, and that's the old screen grid resistors there, which are no longer used because every valve's got its own screen grid resistor now, which is also another mod that is pretty good for classic 30s, which this is exactly one of. Just Chinese rip-off. Alright, so we pulled V1 out, and guess what? No noise. So it's either this valve, which is a no-name, I believe, or something before it. So I'll pop another one in there and see how that reacts. Sorry, my bad. They're not no-names, they're actually Sovtecs. You can just see the writing in the right light. But whatever they are, they're noisy. Alright, we've got a new V1, and kind of hard to tell with the camera compression and whatnot, but trust me, much quieter, and no fluctuation or crackliness in the background. It's just straight up normal hiss. So she's ready to put back in the box. I'll give it a quick play first. I'll punish her with my poor riffage. One other thing I found funny was to get more current from the power transformers, they just stacked two on top of each other and paralleled them. And instead of primary, it's a primarily. And you can see that the splices there are done reasonably well with that from the factory with heat shrink, blah blah blah. Well, let's give it a play. So, because I was spooked by the world economic and political situation, I splurged a bit on valves. Got some mullards in there, a shitload of electro harmonics, match pairs, and that left over the JJs. I'm going to reconsider whether JJs are the option now that they're the most expensive out of everything, and I'm giving Tube Amp Doctor a run. Very high quality stuff. However, the packing from this particular supplier leaves a lot to be desired, and valves are delicate, so fingers crossed there's no problems with them. Won't know until we try them. But yeah, that's the current stash. Got to get some more EL34s next, just to have some in stock. We'll probably go, we'll give Electro Harmonics another run with them. They were pretty sketchy about 2 years ago, but they might have come good again since then. And JJ's, well, once you add them to the cost of a job, everyone hits the roof. So it's either they pay for the valves and don't want to pay for the labour, or they pay for the labour and don't want to pay for the valves, and you can't have one without the other. So we'll try and find something a bit more reasonable. I think Tube Amp Doctor have some decent pairs of EL34s for a pretty reasonable price too. So, and you can be pretty confident that they're not going to have any issues as long as they don't get damaged in shipping. I really want to see valves double boxed. I asked for double boxing in that order and they just ignore it. They probably laugh at it. What a wanker, you know, but they're just going to have to deal with the returns if it comes back, but they're the kind of company that will probably just deny returns, so, and you'll have to fight them tooth and nail, which is why I normally use my other supplier, but they're out of stock on pretty much everything at the moment, so joy. Thought 2022 was supposed to be the party year, not fucking World War III.